story is called Salt for the Deer, Watching the Deer. Early one morning, Mother Deer led her two babies quietly through the green forest until they came to a wide, sunny meadow. Here they stood very still. Then Mother Deer left the two babies in the shadows among the trees and stepped out alone into the sunshine. Mother Deer had sharp eyes and sharp velvet ears. She looked all around and listened carefully. She wanted to see if there was any signs of danger before going any further, but she could not see or hear or smell any fierce wild animals that might hurt her babies. So she crossed the meadow to the pool of water and began to drink. The fawns never stirred from their places in the shadows until their mother wagged her tail. That was a sign for them to follow her. Then they pranced across the meadow and went to the pool. While the fawns were drinking, their mother raised her head again. She listened for any signs of danger. For a while, only sounds nearby were the bird calls, the tweets of a robin, and the screaming of a blue jay, and the crowing of a crow filled the air. Suddenly there was a loud achoo! The Parks family had been watching the doe and her fawns. The moment Mother Deer heard the sneaks, she signaled to the fawns and dashed into the forest. The fawns were close behind her. In a few seconds, all three deer were out of sight. "Oh," said Nick, "it was too bad I sneezed and frightened the deer." "You couldn't help sneezing," said Mrs. Park. "Anyway, the deer probably will come back tomorrow." "Will they?" said Nick. "Well, if they deer come here every day to drink, I might be able to tame the two fawns. I could have them for pets." "Now, Nick," laughed his father, "just remember Chip. Do you want to trap the fawns?" "No," said Nick. "I know that would be a foolish thing to do. Chip taught me a lesson. I want the fawns to be free, but I like to tame them while we're on vacation." "Why don't you put salt on their tails?" laughed Helen. "I heard of catching birds that way." "That's not such a joke as you seem to think," said Father. "Probably we can tame the fawns with salt. All deer love salt. The storekeeper in the town has some blocks of salt. I'll buy a block on Monday when I go to town." Taming the deer. On Monday afternoon, Mr. Parks bought a block of salt. Monday evening, he sat it out on the meadow for the deer. The doe and her two babies visited the meadow early on Tuesday morning. Mother Deer noticed the big block of salt right away. She went over it and sniffed it while the fawns waited in the shadows. The Parks family were hiding among the bushes. They enjoyed watching the beautiful animals, but Nick forgot that he ought to be quiet and began to speak. That spoiled everything. Quick as a wink, the doe leaped away from the salt block. Off she dashed with her two satin coat babies close behind her. Nick waited all Tuesday morning to see if the deer would come back, but he did not see them again that day. Next morning, the three deer visited the meadow again. This time, the doe had signaled to her fawns to join her at the salt block. Nick was watching from the bushes. He did not stir, and Mother Deer did not notice anyone was there. The doe and her fawns stayed about 20 minutes licking the salt block with their pink tongues. Then Nick had an idea. He decided that each night he would move the block of salt a little nearer to the tent. Every night for the rest of the week, Nick moved the block of salt a little bit nearer to the tent, and the deer did not seem to mind. Each morning they came nearer to Nick. Soon he could see their pink tongues going in and out as they licked the salt. "The deer are getting tame already," said Nick. "They're not afraid to come near the tent. Next week is the end of vacation. Probably I can still tame them if I hurry. On Monday I'll let them see me." So on Monday Nick did not hide. When the three deer crossed the meadow, he was sitting on the ground near the block of salt. He sat as still as a stone. To Nick's great joy, the doe and her fawns did not run away. They would not come close to Nick. They just stood still and looked at him and at the salt. Nick was in sight again on Tuesday when the deer came to the meadow. He sat just as near the block of salt as he had on Monday. The doe looked at him with her big eyes. Slowly she went over to the block of salt and began to lick. She watched Nick. When he did not stir, she wagged her tail as a signal to the fawns. They came prancing across the meadow and joined her. One fawn nibbled at the grass, while the other sniffed at Nick's leg. Nick wanted to shout with joy, but he did not move or make a sound. He hardly dared to take a breath. The deer are almost tame, he thought. Tomorrow I shall hold some salt in my hands and see what they do. Probably they'll run away, but I like to try before our vacation is over. The next morning, Nick held a piece of salt and waited without stirring. Soon the deer and her fawn came out of the shadows and crossed the meadow. To Nick's joy, one satin-coat fawn put out its tongue and licked the salt in his hand. Finally, the other fawn licked it too. They're both tame, thought Nick. They're tame, yet they're free. When the deer had gone, Ellen ran out from behind the bush. You really did tame the fawns with salt, cried Ellen. Only you put salt on their tongues instead of their tails.
If you want to know how to find all our stories, go to YouTube and type Living Books for World Changers into the search bar. Click go, then select Living Books for World Changers and videos, and then all our stories are there. We upload new stories every Thursday, so please come back. We love reading stories for you. Come back and listen.